Good day, and welcome to our 48th episode of In Conversation with Convergence. I am joined today by Paul Fleming from the Bank of New York. And as you know, many of you listeners, and this is our all going into our fifth year, my name is George Evans, and this is a monthly podcast where we feature our clients and special guests. We help you get to know the market leaders and some of the top issues facing the industry. Paul, as I mentioned, from the Bank of New York, Paul is a managing director and the head of alternatives at the Bank of New York. So welcome, Paul. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, George. It's great to be with you and great to be on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. So, Paul, why don't we tell our listeners a little bit about kind of your background, your years in the industry?
Yeah, thanks, George. I've been in the industry for over 25 years now. I had a 20 plus year career at State Street in various different roles across different businesses there that touch our alternatives client segment. And then a little over 6 months ago came to BNY to do something similar, which is to head up our alternatives segment practice here at BNY, where I look over everything we do for that client segment across all of our businesses and functions. And as you know, alternatives is an interesting segment because it's the way to describe a client base, but it's also the way to describe a broad asset class that cuts
Right.
across all of our clients here at BNY for the most part. And so it is we do take a pretty wide lens when we talk about alternatives here. And so my remit really cuts across many different types of clients
Yeah.
at BNY.
Tell our listeners a little bit about just the Boney Alts footprint today, right? How big you are, clients, the jurisdictions, just a little bit about the alts business at Boney.
Yeah, so we have quite a big footprint in the space. If you look at the number of managers that we touch and the number of LPs that we have relationships with across a broad spectrum, it's a vast majority of the market. And one of the things that uh, is really interesting to me about BMY is just the breadth of the product lineup. So we touch clients in so many different ways across our asset servicing business, our payments business, our wealth platform, our markets business, our corporate trust business, and so on and so forth. That it really is an interesting way to face the market, an interesting value proposition for our clients. And like a lot of banks and other service providers who provide services in this space, when we think about what we're doing in the alternative segment relative to some of the other things we do, it is the fastest growing client segment across the entire product lineup. So lots of opportunity to help our clients in this space manage scale in their own businesses, manage complexity, and certainly most relevant to recent times, managing uncertainty.
Yeah. I mean, when I was looking at some numbers, I saw things like I think when we looked at the database that you probably have over 400 to 500 clients. You're in what I counted about 16 jurisdictions. So, there's not a lot of firms today that kind of have that footprint. And then maybe you could comment. I know I saw that you were the winner of some recent awards, right, in the industry. I think I saw Custodian of the Year, Fund Admin of the Year, and Private Credit. So those kinds of things are really a testament to kind of the fine work that you guys are doing in the market.
Yeah, and I go back to our footprint, George. If you think about it, we're a 240-year-old organization, so we've been around for a long time
Yes.
in a lot of markets, and we touch a large percentage of investable assets in the world on any given day. And as I said before, we cover the vast majority of clients in some form or fashion in this space across their product solution needs. And so we are a big global business, and that cuts across every single client type and every single asset class
Yeah.
you could think of.
Yep.
And so, when I combine that with the quality of the team here, and our focus on this space in particular, it's not hard to see why. And of course, a lot of this predated my arrival, but it's not hard to see why we've won some of the awards you referenced.
Yep. Tell me, so you come in, you're 6 months in the seat, Paul. Obviously, you're going to come in and kind of have a new strategy or extend the current strategy. Maybe you could talk a little bit about for our listeners, kind of what's kind of your strategic focus as we're kind of heading into May of 2025. What are kind of what are your big initiatives strategically?
Yeah, well, if you think about my role, it's a new role to the organization. So first and foremost, we're organizing ourselves a little bit differently here, and that impacts how we face the market, and just in terms of coverage, as well as marketing, as well as thought leadership. So there's a lot of work underway around those areas that I'm helping support. And then clearly, we feel like in certain products or asset classes, we are well positioned to help our clients with some of their growth aspirations. So, and that really spans the range of product solutions here. I think about some of the markets activity that we support, whether it's FX overlay or things like securities lending, to asset servicing and some of these product structures that appear to be the future, more retail type products, where we have an opportunity to support our client growth there, all the way out to what we do in the wealth space, and our clients' attention to that space and the growth opportunity that represents for them
Yeah.
as well. I think there are certainly pockets of BNY that have somewhat of a unique opportunity to help our clients manage scale and manage complexity and manage some of these growth areas, not just asset classes, but also product types.
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously, since it's a growing business, I mean, I'm assuming you're growing and building out a global team, more of a global team than you have today, or are there jurisdictions that you're more focused on than others at this time?
Well, it's certainly a global team. I'd say the answer to your question around focus is yes. I mean, our focus is going to be drawn to areas where clients believe they can grow. So the wealth channels, some of the more liquid products that we're seeing come to market today, um, around growth around the ability to consume and use data in ways that we haven't in the past. Those are all top areas of focus for us at BNY. And it's a very collaborative approach we take with our clients. We sit down and we have a conversation about where they're going with their businesses, and then
Yeah.
line that up with our strategic planning and our investment asks here. And we're very deliberate about that.
Yep. How about there's always the age old. I spent a dozen years at J.P. Morgan, and there was the constant discussion of build or buy, right? Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the key partnerships, acquisitions, things that not the stuff you're going to do, but the stuff you have done, right? And but firms like Archer, Sepris, Altspridge. Maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about some of those partnerships.
Yeah, sure. I guess the first thing I would say is, we've got some unbelievable talent and teams internally that help us build tools and capabilities that support our clients' growth. And so, if you look at our investment pool and the part of that, particularly around data and technology that is being allocated to this space, I'd characterize it as outsized given the growth here. Um, in terms of partnerships, I think for us, certainly we look at what we do for our clients and what we will do in the future as not just sort of the bricks and mortar here at BNY, but also we look at it as sort of a broader ecosystem of partnerships. So when we
Yeah.
find partners that can plug in and help support data solutions, operational scale, markets activity. We certainly look to do that, and you referenced some of those firms. And then, when we see areas where We believe we have a deficit in terms of substance or market coverage or capabilities, and it'll take us too long to build it, then we certainly look to
Right.
acquire. And you mentioned Archer. That's a good example of an SMA tech platform that really aligns well with our client needs, and where the market's going, and something that we just, we would have had a really hard time building ourselves. And so we acquired that firm and that team, and
Yep.
that's been a great acquisition for us, and we look to see a lot more out of that team as it integrates with the broader organization.
Yeah, and again, we only really see, as um, there's over 600 administrators, right? 1,400 custodians in the world, right? Um, so the ability to be acquisitive and do those partnerships, it's only really getting at the top, being done at the top end of the market, right? So a couple things. We'll kind of pivot a little bit. I want to just talk a little bit about you know this current market. I'll call it volatility. Some people call it worse things than that, right? But um, curious, what you guys are doing to kind of help your clients, and what you can bring, what the bank's bringing to the table right now. In the morning tariffs are 25%, in the afternoon they're 50. The market goes up today, the market goes down tomorrow. What are you guys doing to with your clients, just to help them kind of ride through this turbulence right now?
Yeah, it's interesting, George. We were just talking about this here this morning in a meeting. A handful of us, and including our CEO, will be heading out to the Milken Conference in LA this weekend. And I said in the meeting this morning, I haven't attended. I didn't attend the conference in 08, 09, and I've been going for about 10 years. Maybe other than that 08, 09 timeframe, I'm not sure there's been sort of more buzz around what's going on, and
Yeah.
the broader world at that conference than there will be this year. So it's going to be really interesting to get out there and talk to folks, both clients and peers, and others in the broader investment ecosystem around how they're managing through some of what you just mentioned. But look, I'd say from a BNY perspective, I said before, we've been around for 240 years. Um, we touch most markets and most asset classes and most client types you could think of, in lots of different ways, like we talked about before. And administrations come and go, policy changes, and we're here to help our clients manage through that, manage their business through that, manage complexity that comes out of some of what we're seeing, and manage uncertainty, right? Like, we don't have a crystal ball here. Nobody does, but we are really good at helping our clients manage their businesses through uncertainty in markets and servicing and custody and payments and wealth. And that's what we're doing today. We're making ourselves available to clients. We're sharing some of the best ideas we're hearing about there out there. We're hearing sharing feedback we're getting from our relationships in the market, and helping our clients think about how to manage their business. That's the best we can do from where we sit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to your point, the staying power, right, that Boney has had, I think provides a lot of reassurance to your clients. I'm going to shift a little bit to a couple of just topics, just to get your thoughts. What's the view these days on um, things, lift outs, outsourcing, middle and back off, taking over somebody's middle or back office or parts of it, right? I mean, there's lots of verbiage out there, co-sourcing, and right, but one of the things, at least I'm seeing with the fund admin world, is while there's a rhythm in terms of some acquisition activity, the last few deals that got done in the admin world were, people paid a premium, very high multiples being paid. We see a lot more investment by private equity companies in kind of independence, right? But what's the bank's view these days on I don't want to call it outsourcing, but I'll call it like taking over or co-sourcing people's middle and back office. An advisor's who maybe an advisor who's got stress for whatever reason, it's growth, technology, whatever those things are. Does the bank have a strong view on your business? Have a strong view on what I would kind of call lift out or co-sourcing these days?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I characterize it as having a strong view, but I guess what I would say is we're always open to the conversation, and we certainly have lots of conversations about what that could look like. I think from our perspective, I'd go back to something I said earlier in the discussion, which is for me, it would have to it would have to be obvious that in doing something like this, we would be closing off a gap, a deficit that we had, either in
Yeah,
terms of a capability or an asset class or a market. Um, and, and, and it would certainly have to also be the case that we wouldn't be making our operating model here more complex than it was before just to do this lift out or
right.
this co-sourcing. And so I think for us, if we found that opportunity where we said, geez, we'd love to have more substance in this market, and this client has a need to make a move here to manage their business more efficiently, more effectively, we we'd probably be more open to that conversation. Uh, and also, if we had an opportunity to have discussion around something really unique that somebody else has built, both in terms of data and technology, that would take us longer to build here, then we'd certainly be open to that discussion. But I'd say broadly speaking, just rolling up middle and back office functions to gain share is not something that we're particularly interested in.
Yep, yep. Okay, I agree with you. How about this is probably open ended, so think about this. How about AI? Let's just talk about what if you could chat a little bit about some of the things you might be looking in the alts business for relative to AI or even bank wide that our clients, our listeners might find interesting.
Yeah, sure. Well, we are very focused on AI. We have a platform internally we've developed called Eliza, and it's really provided an opportunity for. I think we're up over 80% of our employees have done the Eliza training, where we can, as employees, interact with Eliza and get results through AI and machine learning in the things that we do every day. And that has resulted in some really interesting outcomes just in
Yeah,
terms of how we manage our business internally. I think there are also opportunities to extend, that technology into helping us manage processes for our clients that are really interesting and emerging. So I think there's more to come. But what I would say is we have something we've built internally that is used by over 80% of our 50,000 plus employees
oh
that
well,
is getting smarter every day in
yeah,
terms of helping us navigate the things we have to do today internally. And it's not a stretch to say that same technology can be applied to how we support our clients going forward in terms of helping them manage their business. And so we're very focused on that, very encouraged by what we've seen already in
yeah.
terms of how we use the technology internally.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been doing AI for some time now, and just the impact it's had on our ability to do some of the analytics we do has been real. And I think you're alluding to this, kind of forces new thinking too, right? It kind of introduces things that you wouldn't have thought of, right? And it's very interesting from our perspective. All right, last random topic. I'll call it the democratization of private assets, right? So private assets being retail, getting into people's 401k plans, all that good stuff. How is the bank preparing for kind of, you've seen some of the big hitters in the industry, the BlackRocks and and others, on this topic. But what's the bank doing around that whole topic of democratization?
Well, from data to operations to wealth management, like our view is it's here, it's the future. And our clients tell us that they are building their businesses assuming that this is the next big wave or waves series of waves of growth for them, and we believe that. So everything we do in support of our client growth, in support of helping them manage their business, uh, is aligned with where they tell us they're going. And so we've got a tremendous amount of work underway as part of not only our investments internally in capabilities to help support activity in that space, but also um, we've got our eye on assets that we could use either in partnership or through acquisition to help us be better in that space and support our client growth. And so, if you look at just the percentage of, some of those pockets of wealth, or the mass affluent or even beyond, that are just massively underallocated to
Yeah,
the space, and think about how far the thinking's evolved in terms of um, allowing more investors into some of these asset classes. And you think about um, the policy climate in Washington maybe over time being more favorable to this. um, we're not surprised that our clients think that this is the next big wave of growth for them. And so our job is to make sure that, as they structure product and as they scale, that we're here to help them manage through the mechanics and analytics and trading, etc., in those growth asset classes that
yeah, yeah. I mean, the growth. I think that's well said. The growth projections we're seeing are just enormous. Our biggest concern probably is with all the deregulation going on in the current administration potentially. Just the whole topic of risk, right? The average Joe understanding the risk in a hedge fund versus you know a mutual fund he or she's invested in their 401k today, right? Very different. And I think there's a lot of consumer education still ahead of everybody that's going to be involved in this. Um, Listen, so to finish up, this is your chance to kind of promote the bank, right? Talk to me just lastly about, in a nutshell, the elevator pitch on what do you think differentiates Boney today in the market, from a client lens? If you had to name a couple things, what do you think Boney does? Where do you think Boney stands out? Why do they excel in your eyes?
Yeah, so I'd say a few things. One is culture. I think we've got a great culture here, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. The second thing I would say is our footprint, and our global footprint, and our track record. The fact that we've been around for 240 years, and have done and been in all the businesses we've been in for such a long period of
Yep.
time. We've just got that legacy and real depth around some of the things that we do to support our clients. And then, I'd also say the breadth of the product solutions that we can bring to the table across all of the businesses and functions here, um, is quite substantial, and I would say differentiates us from a lot of, I forget what you said, how many hundreds of providers are out there in the space.
Right.
And there are only a very small handful that can bring all of the things to the table that we can bring in the way of solutions. And then I would say the focus would probably be the last thing I'd call out, which is there's a huge focus from the top of the house down to make sure that we are helping our clients position for these megatrends like we just talked about.
Right.
They need to grow, they need to scale. Most of our clients are talking about doubling, tripling the size of their business over some reasonable period of time. And if we can't help them, I don't know who can. So
Yeah.
our job is to be here in support of that, and that takes the right kind of focus and investment, both in terms of how we're organized internally, but also our product capabilities. And that's something that gets a
Yeah.
lot of
I mean,
attention.
I agree with you that there's a really a a very short list of mega global firms, right, that can deliver the breadth, right, and like anything, we've both been around the block. It's all about who executes best, right? You got the tools in the toolbox, but how do you execute? But listen, I want to thank you for a great conversation, and the Bank of New York, and you in particular at State Street, pre-Bank of New York, you guys have been a great client, and I want to thank you for that. And we wish you guys just continued success, and certainly, you got a big runway ahead of you, right? And but we wish you the best in being very successful, Paul.